The sky had opened in a flash of blinding light, and all across the town, the faithful had been lifted from the earth. It was the moment they had been waiting for, the rapture. The day when God would take his chosen people to heaven and leave the wicked behind to face the tribulations of the end times. They felt the warm, comforting pull of the light, a divine hand, guiding them toward the afterlife. Among those lifted was John, a devout Christian who had spent his life in service to the church. As the light carried him up, his heart swelled with joy. He could see the others, his wife, his children, his neighbors, floating alongside him, their faces lit with the same sense of awe and peace. It was happening. Heaven was real. All the sermons, all the prayers, had been leading to this very moment. They ascended higher and higher, leaving the earth behind until it was nothing but a distant memory. Soon, the light faded, and they found themselves standing on a cold, metallic surface. The joy of the rapture was quickly replaced by confusion. There were no golden gates, no angels. Instead, they stood in what appeared to be a massive, industrial hall. The walls were lined with strange machinery, and the air smelled sterile and cold. John looked around, his heart pounding in his chest. "Where are we?" he asked aloud, but no one had an answer. His wife, Sarah, clutched his arm, her face pale. "I thought this was heaven," she whispered, her voice trembling. Before anyone could respond, figures appeared at the far end of the hall. They were tall, thin beings, with gray skin and large, black eyes that gleamed with an eerie, unnatural light. The beings walked toward them, their movements fluid and silent. The crowd stared in stunned silence, the truth slowly dawning on them. One of the beings, the tallest, stepped forward and spoke. Its voice didn't come from its mouth, but echoed inside their heads. "Welcome," it said in a calm, detached tone. "You have been selected." "Selected," John repeated, his voice thick with confusion. "Selected for what, exactly?" The being turned its dark eyes toward him, and for a brief moment, John felt a cold chill run down his spine. "For harvest, of course," it replied. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the crowd. John's mind raced. Harvest, what did that mean? This couldn't be happening. They had been promised heaven, eternal life in the presence of God. The rapture was supposed to be a glorious reunion with their Creator, not this cold, sterile nightmare. Suddenly, the walls of the hall began to shift, revealing windows into adjoining chambers. What they saw on the other side made John's stomach turn. People, his people, were being processed like livestock. Some were strapped to conveyor belts, others herded into narrow chutes, their faces filled with terror. Machines whirred and clanked as the bodies of the faithful were sliced, sorted, and packaged, their screams muffled by the thick walls. John's heart pounded in his chest as the full horror of the situation hit him. They weren't in heaven. They had never been going to heaven. The rapture wasn't a divine event. It was a harvest, an organized slaughter. One of the beings stepped forward, as if sensing their confusion. "Your religious leaders, your prophets, your priests, they were all of us," it said. "We created your religions to keep you docile, to make you believe in a higher power, so you would be easy to manage. Your faith was your cage, and now the harvest is complete." John stumbled back, his legs weak, his mind screaming in disbelief. Everything he had believed in, everything he had lived for, was a lie. The God he had prayed to, the sermons he had preached, the hope of salvation, it had all been a tool of control, a means to fatten them up for slaughter. "We raised you," the alien continued, "as livestock, and now You will fulfill your purpose." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she clung to John. He wanted to comfort her, to tell her that this wasn't real, that they were still going to heaven. But deep down, he knew the truth. This was no test of faith. There was no God waiting for them on the other side. They were food. Nothing more than meat. The beings began to move among the crowd, separating families, herding them toward the processing chambers. John held Sarah close, but there was no escape. They had been raised for this, conditioned by lies, by promises of salvation that would never come. As they were led toward the slaughter, John whispered a final prayer, not for salvation, but for the courage to face the end. But no one was listening. Hello, friend. If you enjoy my content, please like and follow. Thank you for your support.